attitude, and now we have a higher foundation to move forward with. And with that, we can align our decisions with what we feel we need to do, right? If I'm not playing, if I'm not getting playing time, it's like, what can I do better? Like, let's be intentional rather than blaming someone or finding a scapegoat or being angry at the coach. Let's get in early. Let's get in early and have an intentional purpose. Let's stay late and work. Let's work on meditation. Let's work on stretching. Let's make sure that we're eating good. Let's make sure that instead of staying up late and looking at the phone, I'm getting into a good evening routine. And so the next day when I wake up, I have as much energy as possible to get to work. And so I'm not playing, I'm getting playing time. Cool. Can I do better? Sorry, I have some feedback. Rather than blaming someone or finding a scapegoat. Let's get in early. Let's get in early. Sorry, I have some feedback. But the big thing is, it's whenever you're in that funk, you just go back within and figure out those things that are completely in our control. And then we begin again and again and again and again, rather than finding resentment in a coach or in a player, because with that resentment, it just poisons us slowly. Great question. I think Ryan just sent me a question list.
May I jump in?
Yeah, please.
So to jump in regarding what you were saying about the starting libero and how you were subbed in against the Netherlands and all your behavior before making the roster on the A team of Team USA, you were pointing out that like you were doing it for the team as well, to push it like for the better. And my question is like, so you've been in a situation, in a position where you had to compete with someone else for the same position. And like, how did you tackle that situation so that it would like be beneficial for the team instead of like ending up in a war between two egos of like players playing the same positions and competing for one spot? So like, how did you manage such situations in your career to help the team and like smooth the whole process of this competition that should help the team be better overall? I don't know if it's clear enough. Let me know if it's not clear and I can reformulate.
Yeah, there's this, I think it's this Buddhist word called mudita, and it's this thought that life isn't a zero-sum game. Like, for example, if the libero starts, well, he wins and I loses. If I start, I win and he loses. Where we can also be happy for others and share the joy in their success. And I think this is so important in life. And in sport, it's very difficult. It's so difficult because we feel that it is a zero-sum game. Oh, I didn't play. You know, I played and he didn't, so I won today. And so I think I was very lucky because when I started playing at a little higher level in college, I went to like my hometown school, and I was just so bought in the team. And I always had this thought that either I play because I'm great and I deserve it, or the other libero plays and he plays because he is the best libero in the nation. That's how good I am. There's no other reason, right? He's playing because he's the best libero in the nation because I'm pushing him so hard. And so I think you have to have this attitude where you have to make it clear, not just to yourself, but to everyone that you're the starter. Because we'll always have a friend that will be like, oh, but you should be playing because you're a better defender. Oh, you should be playing because of this, that. And even though that friend wants to help you and make you feel good, to not lend our ears to people looking to give you pity or to make you feel good. And so I like to make sure that I'm doing everything I know to be the best person, not just on the team, but in the league, maybe in the world, and to never really complain unless I feel that it's completely clear. And even at that, it's still kind of an ego trap, right? Because now you're just saying things to make yourself feel better. And so it's really difficult, even in my professional teams. You know, usually the second libero is pushing me. The last 2 years, they've played some defense too. And I'll get frustrated in the moment, but then if I'm on the bench, I'll have some time to think about it. And it's just like, the coach made the decision. Being resentful, being pouty isn't going to change that decision. It's not who I want to be. And I have to know too, deep down, that that other libero has worked really hard to get this opportunity, and I need to support him. And if I'm really frustrated and I'm really bitter and angry, well, I'm going to get into practice early, every single day that next week. And so it can push me to be even better. And how grateful am I to have another libero pushing me to be even better? The team I'm going to go to next year, they signed a really good second libero. And I thought about it. I was like, why they signed such a good libero? And then I thought about it. I was like, well, you know what? Great. I'm going to be that much better because he's going to push me every single day to get on the court. And because of that, I'm going to be so much more intentional. I'm going to get to practice early. I'm going to stay after practice because I want to play. Every athlete wants to play. I don't think if you're a real athlete, just being on the team is good enough. We all have that drive. And so when we have that competitor, we should look at them as an ally and be like, thank you. Thank you for pushing me to be an even better version than possible. Because if we're just the only player on the team, we're probably going to do the least amount, right? It's just natural. Humans are creatures of least effort. But when we have someone else pushing you, or if you're pushing someone else, it's just consistently reflecting, how can I be better? How can I be more intentional? What can I cut out from my life? Because we can always cut out things as well. And so keep on reflecting and knowing that it is a team, right? And if someone's ahead of you and they're good and you're not playing, you can always be that much better or make the choice that much easier for the coach by your actions. And if someone's pushing at you, be grateful. Great. Thank you. My career is much longer than this 1 year. And even if you play in front of me a couple more times, I'm going to be that much better because I know you're pushing me, and I'm going to have to push myself even more than I thought I would. Great questions.
Thank you.
You want to check those out, buddy, on WhatsApp?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot to choose from, honestly.
All right.
Yep. Unless someone
has another question.
Yeah, I have another one. So mine is, what is something that you learned over your long career of volleyball that you wish you would have known when you started out in your rookie year that would have helped you start out a little smoother or just in a better position?
I think it's just the power of each day. When I was first in Finland, I was like, I wanted to play volleyball. I loved working out. I loved training, but I also played a lot of video games. I also really like to party in the weekend. And there's just so much power from each day. And I don't know how many of you have read some of the stuff I write about the list and about being intentional and checking off little micro habits each day. But it's just really powerful. It's really powerful when you're consistent over a large period of time. And I notice it when I'm overseas for 8 months and I come back, and just how people talk to me, how people, for example, tell me about their problems and stuff like that. For this one instance, just being in Poland and meditating each day for around an hour, and people just feel a much wider space and trust for them to be open. And so it's like I come back and I'm just like, oh wow, like this is a lot. But it's just like being so consistent, I don't really see that growth. But people who haven't seen me for 8 months, they recognize it, right? And so I think people, myself included, we just get so caught up at the end of the week of the result, where it's like this false dichotomy. It's like, I won, so I'm a winner. I lose, I'm a loser. And just how quickly can we refocus and get away from that false dichotomy of I'm a loser and I suck and I blew it and the team hates me, the coach hates me, I'm not going to get a job next year. how quickly can we pivot that feeling to, great, like got the information I needed, like got to work on float serves. Great, like didn't go well, but you know what? I'm going to spend some extra time working on high balls. I'm going to work on my back sets, like, and finding the failure and using it as our teacher. And every day we can be very consistent, can be very intentional. And as a pro, it gets difficult, right? The first 2 months, you're like, great to be here. Like, great group of girls, great group of guys. Oh, so exciting, da, 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 da. Third, fourth, fifth, 6th month, it's like, team's not doing so well. Don't really like this team. Don't like the coach. I'm not playing. Like, F this, F that, you know? And so this is the power of being intentional and consistent every single day and not holding resentment for the coach, for the situation, for the club. I've been lucky where every year I've been paid. I know a lot of players don't get paid, and they take out that resentment on the team, but also on them, right? It's like, I'm not going to practice. You know, I'm not going to try hard. I'm not going to win the games. It's like, you're only hurting yourself. You can't do that. And so I think just the power of being intentional and consistent every single day and not getting too worried on the short-term results. Because if you believe in yourself, you're just building every single day. You're building. And for those efforts and for those tasks to compact, it's going to end up big in the long run. So just don't estimate the power of every single day.
I have another question. Was there like a specific moment or a game that just like switched your mindset to just like, oh, I have to learn like how to control the stuff. I have to learn how to not like have any like resilience towards the coaches and just like everything that you just talked about. Was there like a specific moment that helped you realize that, or how did you even like started getting into that like slowly?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moments as it's like, I feel like every year I just like, I don't know how to say this without being arrogant, or it's like I continue to evolve to like another level, right? And so I remember the first time this happened was my second year in Finland. My first year in Finland, everything went really well. Team played good. I got Libero of the year. Second year, I didn't necessarily want to go back, right? I was like, goodbye, everyone. Like, 1 year was good enough. I'm going to go somewhere else. I didn't get any contracts. So I had to go back to Finland kind of with my tail in between my legs, like, because I told everyone I was leaving. Go back to Finland, had some awful expectations, just assuming that we'd be better, team would do better, then I would leave. Again, this is not completely in my control how the team plays. And so that year was really tough because we weren't playing good as a team. And so I started pushing more. I started being really aggressive to the point where I was almost out of control. And there was one game where I just played awful. And I was with my girlfriend at the time. We went outside and I was like throwing fruit like as hard as I could into the snow because I was just so pent up and so frustrated. And after that, I was like, all right, something has to change. Like this lifestyle I live where, you know, I come to practice, I work hard, I lift hard, but I also play a lot of video games. I also party a lot. I was like, something has to change. I need to like start learning about my mindset. And I called my mom or emailed her, and at that time I didn't like reading. And so I did the scariest thing possible. And I told her to send me a bunch of books on mindset. And from there, I just started to change the way I worked throughout the day, right? Because as a pro, like most people, when they go to practice, they work hard. Some pros work really hard. And there's a lot of people do that throughout the world. And you know what? I was 25. I was in one of the worst leagues in the world. And I was like, you know what? Like, I have to start working differently. I need to be more intentional. I need to be more purposeful, and not just on the court, off the court. So from there, I started reading about mindset, about mindfulness, and that morphed into the next year reading about nutrition. That morphed into meditation. That morphed into philosophy and stoicism. That morphed into really committing to the list, and so on, so on, so on, so on, so on. And so I like to really think about failures or this darkness as just like great opportunities for us to change the path that we're on, and just realize, be like, hey, you know what? It's not working. What I'm doing isn't good enough. And to not be so hard on ourselves, right? Be like, okay, it's not good enough. We can change it. We can read more. We can find a mentor. We can work on mindfulness. We can work on meditation. We can spend more time in the gym. We can get a deeper relationship with our assistant coach or head coach and get more reps. There's always ways to change it rather than just sitting in the darkness, sitting in the mud and saying, this sucks. That's not fair. Why don't I play? No, we always have the possibility to change. And usually that change needs to start within first. So I would say that first realization was in Finland. And that just kind of set me up to this path of self-discovery that started from reading mindset books first. So great question.
I have a question as well. What systems do you have in place that help you stay organized and intentional?
Yep. So it's I have this thing called the list. Recently, I haven't been using it so much just because I have so many other things I have to do that just takes a bulk amount of my time. But this list really helped me when I didn't necessarily have a business and I just had a bunch of free time throughout the day, right? And so how the list works is I have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. And each day has a list of small tasks. Could be meditation, journaling, not eating processed food, getting extra reps, meditating at night, stretching before I go to bed. Some examples, right? So first thing I do, I wake up, I meditate, and I go and I cross off meditation. After that, I journal, I go to my list, I cross off journaling. And throughout the week, I accomplish those tasks to hold myself accountable. And when I do, I cross them off. And at the end of the week, I'll put it on my wall for me to see. Because overall, as an athlete, I want to be an athlete that's intentional, always improving, always getting better, and committing to the work I know needs to be done so I can be better. So if I look at my wall and I see 80% of the things aren't highlighted, well, that's like my mirror, right? I'm not being who I say I want to be. And that's so important to hold yourself accountable. So that's my way of holding myself accountable with a list and materializing the things that I believe are necessary for me to develop as a person on and off the court. And by highlighting them and putting it on my wall, I hold myself to that standard. And if I'm not working up to the standard, well, that's on me. And if I'm crushing everything and the results are panning out, well, I can reassess it. I can add some things. You know, maybe I'll get in some more reps, not only before, but after practice. I can get more sleep. I can cut less time off of social media. And so I like using a list kind of as a compass to growing and becoming my best version. So you guys can read more about that on my website. I wrote 3 different articles on that in the kind of subcategories I use with regards to the list. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Cool.
I have a question too. After all these years, what would you say was the hardest part of being a pro?
Sorry, can you say the question again?
After all these years, what would you say? What's the hardest part of being a pro volleyball player?
I think the hardest part of being a pro volleyball player is just your perception, right? It's very easy to focus on what you don't have. I don't have family. Most of the time you don't have a relationship. I don't have a community. I'm not home. I was talking with an amazing American volleyball player this year, and he was saying that he had lost 8 months of his life. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I missed birthdays. I missed weddings. I missed my nephews being born. Excuse me. And it's like, yeah, you can focus on that, or you can focus on the 8 months you just spent playing in one of the best leagues in the world by yourself, dealing with all the difficulties that come from the coaches. And if you started meditating and reading more, you can talk about, you can focus on these things that you brought. But it's just our perceptions, right? Where do we focus? And I think going back to the list, there's a lot of power of starting your day of journaling, starting your day of gratitude, and realizing how much greatness you have in your life. You can also realize how much scarcity you have in your life. And so the biggest thing for me is perception. I know for Ryan too, it's like if he never went overseas, he wouldn't be living in Europe, you know? He's like crushing it as a nomad. And he's met so many great people. And instead of just having one family in Chicago, he has probably now hundreds of families throughout the world. And through that, it's so much love, so much relationships, and so much clarity, I'm sure, on how he wants to live his life. Like he lives in Europe now. You know, by living overseas, he has different sets of priorities and values. But if he were just to always stay home, that's all he would know. And so again, it's just realizing like our perceptions and our perspectives are up to us. We can focus on the scarcity. Team sucks. Team's not good. Coach doesn't play me. I don't have any friends here. I miss my girlfriend. I miss my boyfriend. Or it's like, wow, I'm learning so much about myself. This is really tough. And knowing that I'm in a tough situation, I'm in a situation that's really uncomfortable, I know I'm going to learn even more about myself. And I'm going to be a stronger person because I'm here alone. So going back to that, it's just perceptions, and making sure we have the correct perceptions and we don't give in to pity.
I have another question.
Yep.
You were mentioning the stoicism before, some minutes ago. Could you maybe come back to this? Like, what were some practices you learned with this in this area, or what are you doing? Like,
Yeah. So I kind of stumbled upon stoicism on a time where I was playing on a team that was 1-19 in France, and it was really difficult. I just won the World Cup with Team USA, and my ego was like, I don't deserve this. This isn't right. I shouldn't be here. I'm way better than these players, et cetera, et cetera. I just kept on telling me these stories of being a victim, of seeking pity with my friends. And of course, my friends would agree with me, right? They want to tell me what I want to hear to make me feel better. But that wasn't necessarily the best thing for me. And so I came up about stoicism in that time, and just kind of a light bulb went off in my head where it's just like, you know what? Like if I keep on focusing on my teammates and my coaches and how much I don't like them, how I don't agree with them, it's not going to help me. They're not going to change. I'm just going to keep on continuing to torture myself. But there are so many things where stoicism, where it's like, let's embrace what we have complete control over. And at that time I was using a list, but you know, maybe I do it like 40%, 30%. Maybe after Tuesday, I hadn't done it a lot. And so I'm just like, I just won't do it for the week, you know? And so after reading like, I think half of this Stoic book called Meditations, I was like, wow, you know what? I'm going to commit to doing everything on my list for 3 weeks. And then I'll see what's going on from there. Because previously I told my agent, I was like, get me out of here. I don't care where I go. I'll be a second libero on a team anywhere from this situation, right? I just wanted to escape it because again, it was uncomfortable. I was making excuses. I was finding pity and just creating this story where I can't thrive to be here. At least that was my ego's story. And so I did those 3 weeks, woke up, first thing I did, make the bed, go meditate, make a great breakfast. I would juice, have a nice coffee. I would go lift. I didn't have a car, so my coach had to drive me. Sometimes he wouldn't let me stay and do my full lift and conditioning. And so I would come back home and I'd go into the park. It was like freezing, but I would do my sprints. And I just wouldn't make any excuses for myself. I couldn't get any extra reps before because we had a team right before us and right after us. So what I would do, instead of making excuses, I would put my parka on in my house and I would warm up in my house. And so when I got to the gym, I could start getting those extra reps while my team was warming up. And so again, it was just, I was in this victim mindset and everything was against me, woe was me. And then after kind of finding stoicism, I was like, wow, so many of these things are absolutely in my control. I'm just refusing to make the decision. And rather than making these decisions in my favor, finding excuses. And so I really like Stoicism, and I love this thought of it's called the dichotomy of control. You can also find this on my website, where the Stoics wanted to be completely clear in these two categories. There's things that are not completely in our control. For volleyball, this could be making a team, getting a big contract, playing in a great league, starting and playing well, right? These things are not completely in our control. There's other factors, there's other people making decisions. We can't say with certainty, I'm going to play in a great league. We can't say with certainty, I'm going to play a great game. It doesn't matter how prepared, how fit, how ready you are. You can't say, I'm going to play a perfect game. But what you can say is, I'm going to be as prepared as possible. I'm going to have the best mindset. I'm going to have the best effort. I'm going to be the best teammate. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to deal with those things outside of my control as best as possible. So when a coach sits you, you control how you react to that, right? You can go on the bench and you can like throw your paddle. I don't know if girls do that, guys do that. They take the paddle and they throw it. They go to the bench and they pout, or they go to the bench and they just clap, right? That's our decision. No one else has control over how we react to things we don't have complete control over. So I love going back to the dichotomy of control, because I just find that so empowering. Or once again, if we don't want to, we don't have to be a victim. We can go within and realize how many opportunities are truly up to us to improve our game on and off the court. So Stoicism has been a big part, and I write about it a lot on Instagram and then also on my website, so you can check out more there. But great question.
I just want to jump in, Dusty. I think this is one of the reasons why I initially just thought, like, man, this is a dude I need to spend a bit of time with. So for me, training with you in the beginning was not just because you were in the gym, but it was because you were who you were. And that resonated with me. I could tell that your intentions were always pure. I could tell that you were struggling. You were also not as honest about the emotions at that point in your life, but like what that struggle was for you, but I could tell. You know, I've been around the block. I knew what was going on. So for me, it was like I gravitated towards being, okay, if I'm going to get something from him, which is I have a person to serve an ace all the time, then I have to be ready to give him what I feel like it's resonating. You're emitting these vibes of, you know, I know I can work hard. I know I can stay consistent and persistent and resilient, but it ain't easy, you know? But yet here you were, this really, really great person who smiled through troubles, who helped whenever possible. And your path from that first finished contract where you're like, hey, can you help me out and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you just got to get your feet wet to this story that you told. I remember talking with you about this season and being like, yeah, this is one of those things you got to go through, because it's the true test of who you are and what you're willing to do to get to where you want to be. And like you're like literally 180 to say, let me lean into learning about the things I need to learn and start implementing all these things I know I should do, and or I found out recently or am finding out I should do. And the more of like this whole control idea for me is that, you know, the struggle as an agent is that we will very often get blamed for players not getting the contracts that they want and blah, blah, blah. But I had great conversations with some of these coaches who are at this combine. And it's like, we as players need to understand when we do it, it comes. It's not the other way around. It doesn't come to you before you do it. And so like we have to put in that effort, and then we have to have those results in order to earn those things. And so this world and the way things are moving, and I think all these young people, And even us, we need to be very aware of when the ego gets in the way, right? And to say, okay, is this the reality? Is this something that I actually could control, or is this completely out of my control? You can't control which teams are going to be interested in you once you have those results and those performances and that effort, but you can control those things that you put out, right? And who you decide to maybe lash out at because you have not gotten where you want to be. And I think that's like one of the things with this combine that we're trying to accomplish. And I know I told you a bit about the combine, you're really excited about it, is that we want players to understand that there's a way to earn all of these things, but it's through struggle and being tired and keeping on going, even when it's hard. So I really like the things that you said, or I love the things you said about control, but I also want to give some people a little bit of insight into your background, and that like you've always been you. It's just that you keep improving on it, and you've made some very important decisions to lean into doing the things that you have to do, which it took me forever, bro, to do the same thing. I'd be like, I know I need to meditate because it's just like, duh, it's like all of these things. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I almost like kind of brag about this now, even though in the past present moment it wasn't so fun. But I mean, I was like a 6-year overnight success story. Like I was with the national team for 5.5 years before I made my first like A team. My first year out of college, I didn't get a pro contract. I went to Finland. I had to go back to Finland. I went to France B. My 5th year, I got a break to go to Brazil. But that was only because the team I signed with threw me out. They were like, "Nah, we don't want you anymore. We want this Bulgarian libero." I'm like, "What?" And so before I went to Brazil, I thought my career was over. I was like, I just, that year I got cut with the national team. Then the team I signed with was like, "No, we don't want you." And it's just like, despite my best efforts, like nothing was really panning out. But, and again, it was like one part, I believe in myself, one part, I'm just too afraid to quit. But it was just intentional, consistent, without necessarily this thought of like, there needs to be a good outcome for me to continue. It was just process. And now it's like, I'm going to my 5th year in the Plusliga, where there's been 3 years where I've been the only foreign libero in that league. And I think about that, I'm just like, wow, it's crazy. But it's just, if you believe in yourself, you can do it. But how consistent are you going to be? What are you going to sacrifice? What are you going to do when things don't work out consistently? Because as athletes,
is Poland, by the way. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. Because as athletes, we get a lot of feedback, whether it's conscious or not, of being winners, right? Our parents, like, you know, when we're younger, if you win, they're like, "Yeah, you won," and it feels good, right? And when you lose, it's like, "Ah, you lost," and like there's something inside of you. It's like, "Oh, like I didn't get the yeah," right? So we do focus on the outcome. And after enough times, when the outcomes don't manifest, we start to withdraw and maybe we quit, because there is a certain feeling of love and wholeness when the outcomes go our way. And when they don't go our way, there's a certain amount of, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough, people don't like me. So I think that's the true test, where it's how consistent and intentional can you be when things don't work out. That year when we went 3-23, it was really tough, but I built the foundation of like the things I have complete control over. Team really didn't win. After I made that decision, we won 2 more games. We ended up being 3-23. But man, those wins felt so good. And then the next year, I ended up being in Poland, where the situation, the environment was perfect, and I had that foundation done. And so I set myself up great for that previous year. to be in one of the best leagues in the world and to play pretty well, because I went through that really difficult year where I had to build enormously purposeful routines. So the big takeaway, it's we have these personal preferences. I want to be in this league. I want to make this amount of money. Maybe even I want to play with another friend. I want to be close to my boyfriend, to my girlfriend. And sometimes these things don't work out. Most of the time, these things don't work out. So the real question is, at the end of the day, what are we going to do when they don't work out? Are we going to gossip? Are we going to find a scapegoat? Are we going to blame our agent? Or are we going to be more intentional? Are we going to be resilient? Or are we going to be gritty and start developing an even better version of ourselves, step by step, day by day, and stick with it?
I love it, man. I just want to end on one thing. Anybody that has extra questions, make sure you send them to me or send them directly at Dusty on Instagram. But I love this idea of, you know, it gets hard and you decide to lean into the things that you know you should have been doing or you need to do, right? And you understand that patience is vital in this game of being, you know, a volleyball athlete, but also trying to make career decisions because you're so passionate about the sport. You want to take it as far as you can. You want to do all of these other things. You have these goals. Can you just highlight your takeaways from the decision-making process of of course, you have the story of your background of saying, okay, this is what happened. And most people, and I've been there too, things get difficult and you go, I don't have time to build. I don't have time to build this foundation. And that's why, like, for me in the latter part of my career, it became, this is ridiculous. I'm over it. You get to this point where you just go like, I keep trying to be stubborn and doing this my way, and my way is wrong. And all these other people, great advisors, have told me these things are their examples and I haven't listened to them. The other part is, and what I really believe in, is that our agency tries really to fit players what their goals are, but what they're ready for, to say, here's a systematic approach to be where you want to be. And something I see from the Europeans, but I don't see from Americans as much, is that they will go for those jobs. And it's starting to change with this new era generation of players and the egos and blah, blah. And social media is playing a big part of that. So be aware of that. Everybody out there, is that playing a part of my decisions? But players over here generally will say, I will take the thing that builds me up more. Like, that's not super hard in the aspects of, like, I have a controlled environment where I'm just going to work hard and it's a great environment and I just got to be patient. But I have great players or good players around me, good coaches or great coaches. How would you advise players to get their mind right and start acting on the things they should do? Be purposeful, have intent, have a plan, and then decide on contracts for the rest, or to build their career, let's just say. We'll end on that note.
Yeah, I think we're so obsessed with the shiny toy. I think when I advise agent or players, the most important thing is you got to play. You got to play. Put yourself in a situation where you got to play. Put yourself in a situation where there's going to be, I think, in a weird way, you got to have guaranteed money, because if that breeds, I think, the most resentment. So be in a situation where you can thrive and where maybe you'll have someone to help you with discomfort. And I think you just have to dig into the process. You know, you always believe it's just going to be like that, and like everything's perfect, and that's just not how it is. And so a big thing for me is when thinking about contracts. One, can I play? And two, making sure we don't get too dark, whether it's like having someone else on the team that you know you can go to. It's a situation where you can step outside of volleyball and have something else. Or if you want to have the stoic challenge, just go as hard as possible and know that you have the meditation journaling practice to go back to. And then the first question, I forgot what it was again.
This is more about how do you make that decision to just get things in order, right? To have.
Yeah. People will like, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I mean, it's like such bullshit. I mean, I don't like to curse a lot, but even for someone like me, I'm very intentional. I can be more intentional, you know? It's like, sometimes I'm on Reddit, sometimes I'm on Instagram, sometimes I'm on YouTube, where you can always be more intentional. I think we can use Google Calendar. If you really want to be so intentional, you can block off times and do it. But I mean, there's always things you can sacrifice, you know? You don't have to be 100% like I'm dialed in, make time for friends, make time for families, but to say that you don't have time, it's not true. So, and then again, it goes back to your priorities. If you like really want to be like, I want to be the best player, like I want to be the best version of myself, I want to play in this league, I want to play in that league. It's like, okay, your actions at a certain point have to align with that. And there's always more you can do. There's always more you can do. You can always be more mindful. You can always get more intentional reps. You can always watch more video. It's just depends. Are you going to align your actions with that version that you say you can be, that you say you want to be? So that's my thought. But yeah, I'm gonna head out because I'm with my girlfriend that I haven't seen for 3 months, and I need to be present with her. But you guys can always write me on Instagram. I always respond. I know sometimes these spaces aren't the best for introverts, and that's cool too. And so if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer or you're curious about or think would help your journey, write me there, and I'm happy to answer. And hopefully we can do something like this soon. Maybe even next year I'm there in person. Let's see.
I hope so, brother. Take care. Have a great day. Thanks, ladies.
All right. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Thank you so much.